Welcome. My name is Dennis Saviano, and I will be serving as the moderator for tonight's electoral candidate debate. Our sponsor is the Journal and Topics newspaper, and with us tonight from the Journal is the associate editor, Richard Mayer, and the reporter, Carol Freer. The election will be held on April 2nd and includes 5 candidates running for 4 four-year positions on the Mount Prospect Park District Board of Commissioners, 4 candidates running for 3 four-year seats on the Mount Prospect School District 57 Board of Education, and 6 people running for 3 four-year seats on the Village of Mount Prospect Board of Trustees. The Park and School District debates will last about 40 minutes apiece. The Village Trustees debate will be between 60 and 90 minutes. Now, I'd like to go through and review the formats that should be followed during the debate. Questions being asked at the forum have been submitted in advance to avoid duplication. Candidates are to answer the only questions being asked by our panelists. The candidate will be asked to give their opening remarks, starting on my left and going to the right. And then questions will be asked going from the left to right also, moving down one each further question. Closing remarks will be given starting on my right and going to the left, so hopefully you picked all that up. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening remark, 1 minute to respond to the questions, and 1 minute to make a closing statement. Our volunteer timekeeper here, Lauren Berry from the Journal, will hold up a time card when there's 20 seconds left to answer the question, and again when it is time to stop. So let me just begin with the introduction of the Mount Prospect Park District candidates. Tim Doherty, Bill Klicka, Michael Murphy, David Perns, Lisa Tenuta. Pretty easy names. I hope I don't mess anybody's name up tonight. If I do, I apologize in advance. So beginning with Tim Doherty, the candidates will now have 2 minutes to make a position statement, please. Tim?
Thanks, Dennis. My name's Tim Doherty. I was first elected to the Mount Prospect Park District Board in April of 2001. I've been serving for the past 18 years. A little bit about myself. I started working for the Park District at age 15. I worked a couple of different positions there, one-on-one counselor with children with Down syndrome, and then I worked also at the front desk in a couple of the facilities and special events. When I turned 21, I was working full-time for the City of Des Plaines, and I was looking for a way to stay involved in the Park District because it was kind of my first job, and my family grew up through the Park District. And the best way I found that I was able to do that was by running for the board. The past 18 years, at the time when I first was elected, I lived at home. Was single. Since that time, the past 18 years, I now have 2 children, almost 8 and 6. My wife and I bought a house in Des Plaines, making sure we stayed in the Park District solely because it means that much to us and our family. We're always constantly at facilities and at programs and things with our kids. Our kids are very active in the district. My wife and I are active in the district. I ran 18 years ago for the same reason I'm really running today, and that's because I care about the Park District. I want to see the Park District improve and grow, and I want to, just make it better for the residents of Mount Prospect and the residents of the Park District. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I hope I'm going to refer to you by your first names, if that's okay, just to make it a little easier. So, Bill Klicka. Okay. Next, please.
Bill Klicka, Commissioner for 24 years. I've been here for a little time. I hope to be here for 4 more. To finish what we started and put the Park District on good terms with everything and in the challenges like our money issues. Okay, we have big problems with this minimum wage that has to be addressed. 5 years, we'll be paying everybody $5 more. And where does the money come from? That's what we have to determine. We're going to hit the budget at our next meeting, which I believe is what, the 20th? And we got to get down on the ground and start running. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Our next candidate is Michael Murphy. Michael?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Murphy, candidate for Commissioner for the Mount Prospect Park District. I'm running for re-election for my second term to help guide and support the Park District and its staff to continue to be a relevant and valued partner to our communities of Des Plaines, Mount Prospect, and Arlington Heights. A little background on myself. I was born and raised in Mount Prospect. I'm a father of 3 boys. I participated in sports like baseball and football in the late 70s, and those are the same fields that my kids played on over the last decade and the same fields that I coached on over the last decade. I worked at the golf course from 86 to 91, and I worked at other park districts in the area for about 4 other years. I think that gives me a unique analysis of park districts and how they work and what needs to be done. I made a conscious decision in 2003 to move back to Mount Prospect because of what Mount Prospect has to offer. It's got award-winning schools, it's got a great sense of community, and it's got 2 wonderful park districts, and I'd like to continue to be part of the Mount Prospect Park District.
Thank you, Michael. David Perns?
I'm David Perns. I'm a lifelong resident of Mount Prospect as well as a practicing chiropractor, where I've been fiscally responsible with our business in our office as well as the boards I've sat on. I bring a fresh perspective with proven leadership skills while currently sitting on the Illinois Chiropractic Society board. My wife Robin and 2 daughters who are here tonight are proud to live in Mount Prospect, knowing that our homeowner values increase because of our park district success. When elected, I'm looking into improving the participation in our fee-based programs, knowing they will decrease the burden on our tax levy. I will look closely at the budget line by line to identify any potential cost-saving opportunities we might have. I'll build upon collaborating as well as reciprocating with neighboring park districts to help keep our costs down. I will look into how the Maple Street Loft projects, if they are approved, can assist us in the needed Lions Park improvements. I look to work closely with staff to find ways to increase our youth sports participation programs and activities, as well as trying to increase and engage our seniors in programs. I will research ways for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District to possibly relax the restrictions they do have on our park district leases. And when elected, I will be the voice for all the taxpayers of Mount Prospect Park District.
Thank you, David. And Lisa Tenuta.
Thank you. Like you said, I'm Lisa Tenuta. I'm a 25-year resident of Mount Prospect. The Tenuta family has been part of the Mount Prospect community for 49 years. I raised my kids in the Park District. It's originally why I ran for the Park District, because I had a love for our Park District. And all our facilities, I think, are so wonderful. And I'm really excited about what the Park District has coming in the future, because in 2018, we created a new strategic plan called Mapping Our Future. And the goal of this plan was to provide the district with like a clearly defined purpose and standards for direction improvement for the next 3 to 5 years. And I'm really want to be reelected on the board so I can be part of that process. I think it's important to the Park District to have a good strategic plan, and we have one, and I'm looking forward to working with our Park District directors to see that to an end. So I hope you vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you all candidates for your opening remarks. I appreciate them. We're going to be moving to our questions now, and just a reminder, as I said earlier, we'll give a 1-minute response to our questions. She'll be watching up there. She's tough. She's going to be putting that sign 20 seconds and stop it. So you want to stop. I mentioned we go left to right, so we're going to start our first question. to Tim Doherty, and the question is, the Park District continues to still have no televised meetings. Why not? If elected, would you push to have the meetings televised? Why or why not?
Yeah, we don't. I think the biggest reason probably why not is that we don't have the equipment currently for it in the Park District building. I'm not against televising meetings. I wouldn't be against that if that was the direction of the board. I think another option would be maybe putting it on YouTube on our website so people could view it that way and would probably save us money. But I have no issues televising our meetings and wouldn't be against it.
Thank you, Tim. Sure. Bill?
Same question?
Same question, I'm sorry.
Okay. I personally would enjoy having it on TV. Big problem, like he said, Tim said, really don't have the equipment to do it, or the people know how to set it up. So I would be for it if we could do it. Otherwise, God bless.
Thank you, Bill. Michael?
We've actually discussed this at the board level, and Tim and Bill both hit on it, that, it's an equipment thing and it's a cost thing. There was also a discussion about bringing it over here, and with staff being located in the building over there, it'd be really difficult to have a meeting once a month outside of their offices to be able to kind of make all that stuff logistically come together. If it's something, it'd be something I would be for and I would vote for, but staff's recommendation has been that it's an expense.
Thank you, Michael. David?
Using the technology advances that we have to communicate with the public is a huge way to get them to engage. What I've noticed going to the recent meetings that I've gone to this year and in a couple in the past is there's not a lot of participation from the public at the meetings. If we can somehow bring the meetings to them, maybe there will be a little bit more engagement from them and a lot more communication.
Thank you, David. And Lisa?
Thank you. We have always gotten direction from the Park District that the cost is part of our issue. I think, if we went to vote for it, I think most of us would probably, if we had the money to go ahead and do that, I think most of us would probably say to move forward in that direction. I do think there's other things that we could do. We are really good about uploading things on the website, and I know that's not always an easy read, but maybe we can tape the meetings and look into the cost in that and see if there's a cost savings in that and put those tapes online also. But the direction that we've gotten from staff is the cost, and it's definitely something that if the public is interested in having, we should definitely have another conversation about it.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, our second question, we're going to begin with Bill. And again, let me just mention that if somebody needs the question repeated, I'm happy to restate the question. So if that is a problem, please let me know. Bill, last year the Park District ended ties with its executive director after 1 year and never fully explained the reason for the exit. Does that show lack of transparency, and what will you do as a commissioner to ensure the public is fully informed of all matters, big or small, going forward?
Well, that's sort of a touchy issue. It went to closed session, so I'm not at liberty to discuss what happened. I was floored by what did happen. He was quite a leader. Unfortunately, there are circumstances that I can't tell you about that happened. So I'm just going to shut it off at that.
Fair enough. Michael?
I think as a board, we want to be as transparent as we can be and as legal as we can be. And in this situation, it's a staff issue, it's an HR issue, and publicly, we cannot comment about it. Unfortunately, it's as simple as that.
Okay, Michael, thank you. David?
Please restate the question.
Of course. Last year, the Park District ended ties with its executive director after 1 year and never fully explained the reason for the exit. Does that show lack of transparency? And what you will do as commissioner what will you do as commissioner to ensure the public is fully informed of all matters, big or small, going forward?
Well, not being on the board in the past, this is my first run for commissioner. That is something that I don't have any inside information about that. I was in none of the meetings. Our current executive director, I will say I've met him on numerous occasions, and I'm looking forward to working closely with him, and transparency is extremely important. That's every entity and body needs to expel that and live by it. So that's what I look to do in the future.
Thank you, David. Lisa?
I agree, transparency is important, and in this situation, unfortunately, the rules of a closed meeting are pretty direct, and it offers protection towards the employees. So unfortunately, we can't speak on it, but I agree, transparency is important, and I do believe that we are as transparent as we can be, but in this situation, the rules are protecting the employees.
Thank you. Tim?
Sure. I'm really just going to echo what everybody else said. You know, we try to be as transparent as we can without going beyond our limits. It was handled in closed session. Eventually, those minutes will become public. And I'll just say that any final action the board ever took was taken in an open meeting, and everything that we've done as far as even approving our new executive director or ending employment with the director. So I think we are as transparent as we can be, and we'll continue to be as much as we can.
Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
Okay, so even though I'm a CPA, sometimes I get my numbers mixed up. So if I miss somebody or, don't start out with the right thing, feel free to correct me. But Michael, I think you're up for the next question.
Okay.
And that is, do you support a complete renovation of Big Surf Pool or to continue to fix it on an as-you-need go basis, and why?
Would I support a complete renovation of the Big Surf project if we had the money to do it? In a heartbeat. But we don't have the money to do it. On the other end of that spectrum is throwing good money after bad. We had a design plan done, conceptual plans done, I think it was about 3.5 years ago, and those things range from $4 million all the way up to $9 million. It's really difficult for me to approve money like that because pools don't make you money, they end up costing you money. And the more money we spend from the capital budget is only going to cost us more money from the operating budget. I think there's a happy medium to be found, and we have to challenge staff to figure out how to make that happen.
Thank you, Michael. David?
The wave pool is interesting because I was first in line when it opened. I swam in it the very first weekend that it came to be with my raft. At the same time, pools are not, they're financial disasters for the most part. Everyone that has a pool, you put more into it than you get out. With that being said, you still need pools. With what I would like to see with the renovation of that pool is adding an area for special needs, handicapped population. The autism spectrum is through the ceiling, and it continues to be. Keeping the pool, but making it a little bit more conducive to that population would be a fantastic addition.
Thank you, David. Lisa?
I agree with Mike. If we had the money in the Park District to renovate it, I would say let's do it. But the bottom line is that pools aren't revenue-generating facilities. And I do believe that we had someone take a look at the pool, and the base of the pool is in very good condition. What needs to be changed is the motors in the pool, and I think we need to do some renovation at that pool. We need to change the pool deck. We've talked about a splash park being added to it, some umbrellas, some updating, definitely updating the locker rooms and getting those up for, for families and and handicap and a lot of, we could just make such great improvements to those locker rooms. I do think that we definitely need to work on that facility, but a total renovation at this time, it's just not financially responsible.
Lisa? Tim?
Sure. I guess my opinion of a total renovation is a little bit different. I would consider keeping the shell, maybe putting a new liner in there so it doesn't cut as many feet, and putting some new equipment in there and redoing our bathhouse and our raft room and all that as a complete renovation. So I'd be in support of that. I think that's important. This pool has been talked about for 18 years that I've been on the board, and I know the public is looking for it, especially the people that live in that area. And I think the wave pool offers something that a lot of districts in this area don't offer. It's a unique pool that still could bring in a lot of people. So I agree. I do want to see all those things done. I think that is our next main project, in my opinion, that the Park District has to look at. And I think that along those lines, we also have to look at, adding more amenities for younger kids, because that's really the main thing the wave pool doesn't have, is for the younger kids with the big waves. It kind of scares a lot of parents. So offering that as well during that time.
Thank you, Tim. Bill?
The wave pool has been around forever, and it needs a definite rehab. But I proposed several times that we do the bathhouses one at a time and get that part of it out. And we should put a little wave pool or, what do you call it? Shower with a little depth for the kiddies to put in one side, and try to get that part done. Unfortunately, we don't really have a concept as to what we're finishing or want to start. So, it all has to be brought out in the wash.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, our fourth question. For David. David, the question is, the Park District is currently funded by approximately 70% taxes and 30% fees. How do you believe the district should be funded and why?
Well, there is the Parks Foundation. When elected, what I would like to do is see how we can get the Park Foundation more engaged to increase revenues for the Park District. The other way to raise the fees is improving or increasing utilization of the fee-based programs. The club sports have taken a lot of the participation of youth sports from the Park District to a private sector per se. If there's ways that we can compete on educating the coaches, teaching a little bit more advanced skills, possibly can increase the fee-based programs to offset or increase revenue for the Park District.
Thank you, David. Lisa?
Thank you. We really would like to see that flip, that 70-30 you mentioned. I think it's actually closer to 60-40, 60 tax-based, 40 programs. We really want to see that flip. We'd like to see 60% on programming fees and 40% to tax revenue. And that's going to take a lot of work on our end, and that strategic plan that I mentioned earlier is a valid part of that, because we need to grow programming, and we need to make sure that we have good programming for all residents. And so that takes resident feedback, that takes some hard work from our employees at the Park District to figuring out what the needs of our residents are. We have to flip that programming. We have to have a bigger, less financial on our tax base and more on our programming. I think that, we have to promote a good balance between tax revenues and non-tax revenues, and we have to look for corporate partnerships and do other things that help even out that tax base.
Thank you, Lisa. Tim?
Sure. Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback off that. I think one of the things that our strategic plan talks about, and we've talked about as a board and staff, is reviewing all of our programs. You know, you have to figure out a program, you have to look at every program and figure out if it's at the beginning of its life cycle, if it's at its prime, or if it's starting to go down and it needs to be eliminated. And I think as a district, we need to do that because it is important that program fees do go up. I mean, that's something we focus on at almost every meeting in our financials is how our programs are doing and how are they supporting the district. So I think we need to look at new programming like Lisa mentioned, but we also need to look at the program we have and see where it is in its life cycle and if we need to make changes or adjustments to make that do better. Along the same lines, thanks to the foundation, we're doing some renovations at the conservatory, you know, updating our facilities and bringing in people to rent our facilities or use our facilities or want to be in our facilities is only going to help because we're going to be bringing more money in that's not coming off the taxpayers.
Appreciate it, Tim. Bill?
The issues that we have seems to be all revenue. We had 2 referendums in the amount of time I've been on the board that we supported, and unfortunately, they didn't get passed. So it put us right back into what do we do? So we went into the shell and did what we could each year with the revenue we had. And that's what we've been doing. We've been limping on that for, oh God, probably 20 years. So I would like to get a program because there's going to be big dollars with this $1 a year minimum wage. And that's going to be hard to come up with to cover that. So.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Last question, last candidate for this question, I should say. Michael?
Thanks. As Lisa stated, I was under the impression that we were a little more 60-40, which is norm. That seems to be normal with the park districts in the area, but personally, I'm not interested in being normal. I want to see us work towards a 50-50. You can increase revenue and you can decrease expenses, and that's the easiest way to do it. We spent, the board allotted some money to do the strategic plan, this mapping our future that we did, that staff completed about a year and a half ago, and we're just in the process of implementing it. And part of that is staff is setting processes to evaluate programming, take a look at it and see what makes sense. They're defining goals for new programming, which we have to do. And in the back of my mind, if we can get 1% better a year, and in 10 years, we're going to be sitting at 50-50.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Okay, our last question will begin with Lisa. And the question is, with no planned park renovations slated for 2019, would you push to have at least 2 parks renovated every year going forward, or do you believe money should be spent elsewhere?
We've actually been on the track to do one park a year. And I think it's been a good plan. We've done quite a few parks in the last 4 years. And I think that's a good plan to be on. Some of those park playgrounds, their costs can be up to $600,000 to $700,000 just to replace a park. So 1 park a year is a good plan. We are actually now really looking at grant opportunities because our last park, one of the last parks we did, which was Einstein, it was done on a grant. And I think that we really do, to be able to continue to improve our parks in our areas, we have to look for grant opportunities, corporate partnerships, and things like that to be able to continue some of those improvements in the park district. And I hope that we can continue to do that. I really do think we need to be on a plan to improve 1 park a year. And I hope that we can get back into that cycle.
Thank you, Lisa. Tim?
Sure. Yeah, I think parks are important. The board's made it a priority for the last number of years to renovate a park a year. Einstein was a great example of getting a grant through the state of Illinois, which really helped us out. We were able to redo that whole park, not just the playground. But we're limited in our capital money, and we're limited roughly between $700,000 to $1 million a year, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at a local park, it's probably somewhere in the $200,000, $250,000 range. So when you take that and then you look at our parking lots, our roofs, our facilities, our vehicles, and all the other things that we need to improve, it would be tough to do 2 a year, I think. As far as I know, this year we do have plans to redo a park this year still. I believe it's in our capital. I believe it's Bussey Park. But I would continue that and want to see that continued, that every year we renovate a local park.
Thank you, Tim. Bill?
Yes, there's so much things that have to be done in the Park District, and revenue is the key. So if we can get facilities like Recplex and Central, and also the conservatory up and running a little bit better and making more money for us, we could do great deals. Unfortunately, it's all a big guesswork right now. So where do we go? We got to look at our budget and see what we can and can't do, and go from there. So that's unfortunately where we're at.
Appreciate that, Bill. Michael?
Yes, so for the last, I don't know how many years, but several years, the Park District has been on a plan to redo the parks. We got thrown a curveball, I don't know, Rauner's second year maybe, to where he locked up all of the grant money got locked up, and we were in the process of starting Einstein. And Einstein originally was supposed to be done in one summer, and because the grants got held up, we had to do that construction over 2 seasons, which is something that we did not want to do. I think that got us a little, those grants helped us build those parks. As Tim said, I want to say Einstein was probably a $400,000 park, and half of that came from the state. If we had to pay for it all, it'd be pretty tough to do. But getting us back on that track is something I would like to see done, and it's going to be very helpful if these grants can continue to come in from the state.
Thank you, Michael. And David?
Well, as the question was posed, I mean, there's always room for improvement. With that specific question and how many parks per year, I would really need more data and information in order to make an educated answer on that. To piggyback Lisa, corporate partnerships are, I think, one of the best viable ways, because it's a win-win. You can renovate a park as well as get some corporate exposure, and I would think at a pretty nominal fee or a fair fee, and that can really help offset the costs as well as continue to improve the parks.
Thank you. Okay, the questions are complete. Thank you for your thoughtful answers. We're now going to begin with the closing statements. Right to left. Lisa,
Okay.
you have a minute.
I'm asking for your vote. I want to be on this Park District Board for the next 4 years. I think this is such an exciting time for our Park District. We've been around for 64 years, and we have this strategic plan that's in place. And I encourage all residents to go on our website and take a look at it. It is really an exciting time for us. We're looking to create change in the Park District and to create innovation in our Park District. And so I do encourage every resident to go online, look at our strategic plan, and get behind it and get excited about it. We have 31 neighborhood parks in Mount Prospect, 7 main facilities, 2 outdoor pools, and we have quality open space. We're so fortunate to have all this at our fingertips as being residents of this community. And neighborhood parks are, where I met some of my best friends, and I think they're so important to our community. And so, I really hope that all residents get behind the Park District, and we see you at voting in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. David?
I'm excited to have a chance to be part of this board that has moved the Park District forward. I've always had a keen interest in physical activities as well as rec sports. Being a chiropractor, I know how important they are in your health and well-being. I look forward to giving back to the community that has given me so many fond memories, as well as my daughters. with the programs of participating and using the facilities. When elected, I plan to continue the positive improvements the Park District has already made. I will connect, I'll engage with the residents in our town, and I just want to continue to increase Park District participation, and it'll be a very welcome challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Michael?
As I look back in my 40 years plus in Mount Prospect, I've reflected on old and new relationships and how they came about. And the Mount Prospect Park District is the common thread through most of these relationships. Whether it's running into an old friend I used to play midget football with or used to play baseball with, the Park District, its activities, the programs, and facilities is a common thread in how I met all these people. Park districts create community, park districts create friendships, and park districts allow friendships to continue. I want our staff to know that. I want our staff to believe in that, and I want our community to be able to see that. Park districts are a huge part of our lives. I'm looking forward to the vote. I look forward to you voting for me, but I will tell you that you have 5 viable people here, and you won't go wrong with having one of us 5, 4 of us 5 on the board.
Thank you, Michael. Bill?
Oh, gosh. There's so much stuff that has to be done. And where do we start? We have to try to get more finances and donations into the Park District to allow us to do more. Unfortunately, the golf course cost us $7 million, and that really hurt. If we did it a year earlier, it would have been $3.5 to $4 million. But unfortunately, nobody was at work at that time. So when he got back to work, that was the cost. I would love to be on the board again and use my ideas to try to promote what we have to promote.
Thank you, Bill. Tim?
Thanks. I want to start by thanking you, Dennis. I think you've been moderating these for as long as I've been around with the Park District. I also want to thank Richard, Lauren, everybody from the Journal for putting this together, and the Village for allowing us to use the facility and televising it. I think Mike hit it on the head. I've known and I've got to work with Lisa, Mike, and Bill for the last number of years. Dave, I got to meet through this election process, and every one of us is running because we care about the district and we want to see the district do better. So there is no wrong in how people vote. With that being said, I would love for people to vote for me. I think my 18 years on the board, my independent thinking, my voting record, all speaks for what I do, and I always make the vote doing what I think is best for this district, and I'll continue to do that if I'm lucky enough to be reelected.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, so as a reminder to our audience, the election will be held on April 2nd, and as was mentioned, there includes 5 candidates running for 4 four-year seats on the Mount Prospect Park District Board of Commissioners. So with that, thank you, candidates. You did a great job tonight. We appreciate it. And if you wouldn't mind exiting to the rear and just work your way around. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, and at this point in time, I would like to, actually, at this point in time, I just want to reintroduce the journal reporters that are here. So Caroline is here, and Lauren, Richard, and I just wanted to do that. So we have 4 candidates running for 3 positions on the Mount Prospect District Board of Education, District 57. And they are Kimberly Fay, Jennifer Kobus, Christine O'Sullivan, and Rachel Rotroff. And very similar format. If you happen to be here for the Park District, we're going to be asking a series of questions. We're going to have an opening remark, and then we're going to have a closing remarks. The opening remarks we're going to allow 2 minutes for. The questions and the closing remarks we're going to have 1 minute apiece for. We're going to start with our left again, go left to right. Then at the end, at the very end, we're going to be going from Rachel back to Kimberly. So any questions on any of that? If not, we'll begin. We'll begin with Kimberly. Kimberly, if elected, what are your 3 top priorities you want to get accomplished in the 4 years on the board, and why are those your top 3?
I guess I do have a question. Are we starting with opening statements?
Sorry. See, now if you remember, I said I could make a mistake. I could make a mistake. Just want to get into those tough questions.
Sure.
That's all.
And I'm happy
Please,
to get
Kimberly,
to those, for sure.
now you actually have an advantage. You realize that, so I'm going to have to see if Richard's going to want me to skip that question. But Kimberly, would you please start with your opening remarks? I
Absolutely.
apologize.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Kimberly Fay. I'm a mom of 2 girls, ages 8 and 5, and I've lived in Mount Prospect District 57 for the past 6 years. My family moved here initially to enroll my daughter in early childhood programming at Westbrook. She was experiencing gross motor delays, and we knew that by having her in early childhood programming here in this district, she would be supported and encouraged, as well as challenged to grow. I've stayed in this district because I've seen that the excellent education my daughter has received has set her firmly on a path toward continued academic achievement. Until recently, outside of my day-to-day interactions with teachers and staff, I was largely unaware of all of the intricacies involved in running a school. It wasn't until discussion around a referendum surfaced that I began to realize all I didn't know. Since then, I've become convinced that because my family benefits from the services District 57 provides, I have a responsibility to play an active part in stewarding those services. That is why I decided to run for a seat on the school board. The district is facing many challenges, as enrollment is slated to increase over the course of the next few years. There's also new referendum funding that needs to be managed. My career as an attorney has uniquely prepared me to tackle these issues. In my job, I help people navigate complex situations to reach the best possible conclusion, ensuring that they are informed about the pros and cons of each step along the way. It would be my privilege to use these skills as a member of the school board to help move our district into the future. When you vote for me, you will be electing a board member who will strive to manage the district's finances effectively and wisely. I will focus on long-term goals, including increasing facility capacity for a growing student population, as well as growing our programs to possibly include full-day kindergarten. I will also make every effort to foster a more cohesive partnership between the district and parents, making it easier to engage with the schools, especially for working families. I'm looking forward to our conversation this evening, and I look forward to having your vote April 2nd.
Thank you, Kimberly. And here again, I hope I'm going to refer to everybody by their first name, and I hope that's okay with everyone. So, Jennifer, if you would, please.
I was actually appointed to the District 57 School Board about 5 years ago. And then 1 year after that first term, I then ran for election and am now going for re-election. I moved into Mount Prospect 15 years ago. I have 3 amazing kids, one who's 19, one who's 16, and then my daughter who's 10 that goes to Lions Park. We specifically moved 15 years ago when we were researching where we wanted to live to Mount Prospect and specifically District 57. I had done all the research about the schools and the programs, the curriculum, the scoring, et cetera, and I felt that District 57 was the best fit for my family, and I continue to feel that way. I'm extremely passionate about our school district. I'm extremely proud of what we've accomplished the last 5 years. Well, I've been on it, and I really look forward to continuing that passion and participation in the community, hopefully for reelection this year. It's in the past I've used, while I've been on the board, my background is education. So my bachelor's degree is in secondary education. My master's degree is in business management, and I have used education and business throughout my time on the board. I currently work full-time and manage large sums of money, somewhere upward of $200 million at times on various projects. And so I've always used that when I've looked at our issues that have arisen over the 5 years, and I've really tried to leverage that knowledge to help assist with decisions as different topics come up. Overall, I love this community, I love the school board, and I'm extremely passionate about education and hope to be reelected.
Thank you, Jennifer. Christine?
Hello, good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you for Journal and Topics for hosting the forum. My name is Christine O'Sullivan. My family moved to Mount Prospect in 2015 as my daughter was starting school. It's a really exciting time to be in Mount Prospect with all the development that's happening downtown, even just hearing from the Park District and their plans for strategic decisions for the future. I want to be a part of the school board because I'm really passionate about communicating and engaging community and parents and taxpayers and businesses in really making Mount Prospect the place that people move here for. I moved here for the school district. I believe the school district is the backbone of this community. And when I realized that a referendum was coming up, I became concerned that it wouldn't pass. I educated myself on the issues, and I volunteered. I emailed parents, I spoke to parents, I phone banked, and I was very happy that the referendum passed. But with the passage of the referendum, that was really a lifeline. It wasn't a lottery ticket. There has to be really strong financial stewardship and strategic planning that goes into how that funding is used. I'm also passionate about 21st century jobs. My current role, I have a 15-year career in association management with communications and member and volunteer engagement. My current job is at a cybersecurity and information security association. And I just see that the opportunities in the future are what our children need to be prepared for. And I would really love to work with the community, with the business community, in getting kids ready and interested in technology, green technology, how tech affects every aspect of our lives, and getting them ready to be successful adults. So thank you for considering all of the candidates, and please vote for me on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Rachel?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you to the Journal and to all of you for being here tonight, both here and at home. My name is Rachel Rotroff. I'm running for District 57 School Board as a mother, as a teacher, and also as a fellow taxpayer. First, as a mother, I have two young daughters who are currently enrolled in Westbrook and Lions Park, and my husband and I heavily considered the excellence of our elementary schools when we decided to start our family in Mount Prospect in 2010. As a high school teacher, I work daily within the public school system, so I am well aware of the many challenges it faces, as well as the incredible opportunities that it can provide for children. For the past 15 years, I've been working with students, with parents, with administrators, and I feel that that experience gives me a unique perspective and one that is not currently represented on our District 57 board. We have an excellent school district, but there is still plenty left to do. The passing of the referendum last year allowed us to stabilize what was once a rather dire financial situation. And I put a lot of time and effort into educating both myself and other District 57 families as one of the leaders for Westbrook. But now, as a fellow taxpayer, I also want to be part of the hard work that's necessary to ensure the long-term fiscal sustainability of the district and assure that promises can be kept. If there's one takeaway that I've had from speaking with many residents over the past few months, it's that our community is heavily invested in our schools. And for that reason, I'll work to guarantee clear and frequent communication with District 57 families so that everyone feels included and involved in what's happening in the district. I really believe in District 57, and I hope I'll earn your vote in this coming election. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so kind of a deja vu question here. We're going to begin our questions, aren't we? Although, Kimberly, I'm going to change it a little bit, just a little bit. I originally read, if elected, what are your top 3 priorities you want to get accomplished in the 4 years on the board, and why are those your top 3? And we're going to answer that question, but we're also going to delve into the next question, too, which is, as a parent, taxpayer, and in one case already a board member, what is the district and/or school board lacking today to make the district better in the years to come? So what are your priorities, and what do you think the school district is lacking?
So I get 2 minutes to answer that 2-part question, right?
Well, Richard? Where's
it's okay.
Richard at? 2 minutes. He gave you the okay, so each of you are
Okay,
going to get
great.
2 minutes on that.
Sorry. As far as priorities, I think it's very difficult to think about what can be accomplished in the course of only 4 years. I've only just begun to realize how lofty my goals tend to be and the time and effort that it actually takes to effectuate them. So 4 years actually is a relatively short time to accomplish a lot of the things that I'd truly like to see for our district. Probably chief among them would be implementing a full-day kindergarten program. I know it's been talked about at length in the community as something that many families, working families especially, would like to see happen in our district and would like to be able to take advantage of. That's not to say anything about the quality of our current program. I think our half-day program has done a tremendous job of positioning our children, the students, to be able to tackle then the challenges of the earlier primary grades as well. So that's one priority. Still have 2 more. The other priority, I think, would be to accommodate for the growing student population that we're facing. We're slated to have an increase in enrollment over the course of the next 4 years, and thankfully we're already addressing that at some level with the planned expansion of Fairview. There are a number of challenges that face the other schools in our district with regard to their particular geography and circumstances, and so those are things that I would also prioritize as well, addressing those and planning for those, not just for the course of the student population in the next 4 years, but even beyond, and trying to make arrangements for that as well. As far as what our district is lacking, I really think communication is a big factor, and making that easier for parents who maybe don't necessarily have the time, and not just parents truly, but other stakeholders, people who live in the district and who are affected by the schools because of the play between the tax base.
Thank you, Kimberly. Jennifer?
Sure. So for me, some of the top areas of focus is, first off, continuing the focus on safety. I think in today's world, safety needs to be top priority. And I think the school district has done a great job in the past, even prior to the referendum, making sure when there was an allotted amount of money from a maintenance perspective to consistently always prioritize all projects based on what is the best from a safety perspective for the students. And I think that needs to continue regardless of the referendum passing, just always making sure that that's a top focus when we're prioritizing our finances. The second piece would be the financial responsibility. Due to the referendum passing, I think as a board, the upcoming board members will have challenges that they'll need to face regarding finances, and they need to continue to be financially responsible with those decisions, and also continue to challenge administration when they think there's opportunities that they perhaps don't feel that that's the right direction the school district is going into. I know in the past, during my time on the board, I've challenged them several times, and I think as a board member, you have to be prepared to do so. And then finally, when I joined the board, we really began to focus on community engagement, not just with our school district parents, but the entire community. And we hosted multiple community referendums to try to engage the community and have them come out and hear different various topics. Sometimes we had speakers. And I would say that that needs to continue to be a focus. I think we haven't reached all of the community members like we would like to. Sometimes the turnout at those haven't been great, but I think we need to continue to host those in the community. And then as far as what I think is lacking, I know Kimberly stated it, but space constraints continue to be a problem and will be a problem as enrollment has continues to increase. So just focusing on solutions, creative solutions, not necessarily financial solutions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Christine?
Great. I think my first priority is the financial stewardship. I have been following how the board has been handling some of the funding this year. I think they've been making really appropriate decisions and really looking at the long-term strategy. And I want to be a part of that and looking at cost-benefit analysis for any large decision that they make, as well as engaging the community and understanding those decisions. My second priority is clear communications. As a communications professional at work, I think a lot about how we can really reach people where they are, and that can include describing really difficult topics, especially when it comes to finances and taxes, in ways that are more digestible and easier to understand. So if that's an infographic, if that's a short video interview, if that's 5 bullet points after a board meeting, to really share with taxpayers, with parents, what they most need to know, what's happening, and to seek their input, so they can feel a part of these decisions that need to be made. And paired with that, my third priority is community engagement. People need to have calls to action to understand where their opinions matter and how they can assist the district in making these important decisions. So I would ask for input from those who benefit the most from the schools and who are paying the taxes that fund these schools. I think enhancements that can happen for the schools are more embracing technology, and that is as simple as improving some of the communications that go out to the community and go out to parents, but also using technology to be creative in how we approach school safety, updating some of our systems, and also paired with my interest in preparing kids for the future, really having them understand the technology that the district is embracing, having them, use it and learn about it.
Thank you, Christine. Rachel?
Thank you. I think for District 57 to continue to grow and flourish, we really have to take a balanced approach and take it within our rather limited budget. To do that, I think it's important to look at the different stakeholder groups that exist within our district. And first and foremost, I think we always have to be considering the benefits that our students will achieve based on our decisions as a school board. That including things such as improving and increasing options within the curriculum. For example, there is currently a pilot program for one-on-one technology within the a few fifth grade classes at Lions Park. That is potentially a large change that needs to be thoroughly considered by the board before taking place. Also, I think we need to look for the social emotional health of our children and this upcoming generation and provide appropriate programming to address those needs. Additionally, our students will benefit from some of the facility improvement projects that are underway currently and will continue to be planned out of the operating budget in the future. Besides the students, we also need to take care of our teachers and our staff. And within the next 4 years, we'll have contract negotiations with our teachers union. And I think that as a community, we all want to see a negotiation reached where both parties feel that they are satisfied and that their main needs have been taken care of. And finally, I think for our District 57 families, I as well would like to see some small improvements to address some of the concerns of our increased working family population. Eventually, I would very much welcome the idea of a full-day kindergarten. While I know that there are currently major challenges with space and cost, that is something that I think should be on the long-term horizon for the district, as well as potentially now improving the quality of the childcare programs that are offered through our Kids Corner program. Small changes that improve the day-to-day lives of our families. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, our second question will begin with Jennifer. Jennifer, the district not too long ago was close to striking with teachers over a new contract. During the next 4 years, a new contract will need to be established. How will you ensure talks go smoothly and a deal is reached with no issues?
I think that's a great question. I didn't join the board when I had become appointed that first year. That the contract was already resolved, so I didn't get a chance to participate in that, but you are correct, that will be upcoming. I think it's really critical to continue communication between the union as well as through administration. They currently meet on a regular cadence to make sure that both parties are aware of any issues that might be arising, whether it's specifically with certain teachers or administration or just general larger topic conversations that they'll have regarding the schools, curriculum, et cetera. I think that's been working. I think they've really worked hard to repair any type of relationship that might have gone a different array at one point prior to the negotiations. So I think they've done a solid job on that. And I would just say that that needs to be a continued focus, is just enhanced and continued communication.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now, just to make sure we're on, and I think you might have been at a minute or so, but we're going back to the 1 minute time frame.
Okay.
Christine.
Great, thank you. I agree that working closely with the union and keeping the lines of communication open throughout the year are critical to ensure that our teachers and our staff are happy with staying in their roles, and that the district is providing them the appropriate compensation and benefits that they deserve. I really feel that recruiting and retaining talented teachers and staff are really important for the long-term vision of Mount Prospect in our schools. So I would want to look at the professional development that we offer for teachers. If we offer mentoring for new teachers with more established teachers, I really feel that people don't leave jobs where they feel valued and have a clear path for promotion and for growth in their roles. So I would like to look at what we're offering teachers beyond just compensation.
Thank you, Christine. Rachel?
Thank you. Research and studies show us time and time again that when poverty is not a factor, which thankfully it is not as much for many students in our District 57 community, that having a highly qualified teacher in the classroom is the major factor to leading to positive educational results. So we as a community have an investment in our teachers as they have an investment in our children, really. I agree that a positive negotiation process goes a long way to creating a community of trust and respect within the board, as well as the teaching and staff community. I also think that within our district, we have a strong sense of appreciation for our teachers, especially among our parent community, and I would like to consider that and keep that increasing and find new ways to provide for them in other aspects.
Thank you, Rachel. Kimberly?
Thank you. Well, I think, as the other candidates have stated, it's important to have an ongoing dialogue with teachers. This can't be a conversation that we're having, in the weeks and even months leading up to the contract negotiation. Their overall satisfaction is something that needs to be taken into account throughout the year. And to the extent that we as a district may not be able to improve their overall satisfaction by financial compensation, we should be looking at some other ways to effectuate that, whether it's by increasing their benefits package, negotiating some of the other things that can be negotiated in the overall picture of a teacher contract. That being said, I think the negotiation process is very nuanced, and I think Jennifer's the only one of us that has any experience or even exposure to dealing with that. So I would really be invested in learning more and taking advantage of any opportunity to find out what that truly involves so that I could be effective in that role.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, our third question will begin with Christine. And it goes something like this. With talks of potentially building a new Lincoln School in the years to come, would you be in favor of building a new school next to the current building that would require to go out for referendum, or just make modifications to the existing school at a lesser cost, and why?
That's a great question. When the referendum passed last year, there was a promise that there wouldn't be an additional referendum for another decade, and I would hold the district to that promise. I believe that there's always room to look at line by line a budget and see what kind of vendor relationships and, deferred maintenance that can happen. I know that there has been deferred maintenance on the schools, particularly Lincoln, and it is very appropriate to use the referendum financing to improve those schools. I know that many people believe that in the future it will need to be replaced, and I would be interested in being a part of that conversation much further down the road.
Thank you, Christine. Rachel?
Thank you. I as well am pleased that the deferred maintenance that has been needed at Lincoln is taking place, and I am happy that it's taking place out of the current operating budget. I hope that with the mitigation of much of this deferred maintenance, that we will be able to postpone a conversation about what to do with the building for the next 10 years, because I do think that it is critical to maintain the promises of the referendum and not go back to the taxpayers for the time that we agreed upon. That said, at that point, and further in the future, I would be open to listening to all options, as I think as school board members, that's our responsibility. We are not far enough along in the conversation for me to have a solid, firm opinion on that. I would be open to listening to all options and considering our financial situation as well as the desires and goals of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Kimberly?
Thank you. I think, again, because of the recent referendum, we are now able to take care of certain maintenance projects that have been deferred and thus keep Lincoln at least a functional state. That being said, I think with regard to asking for an additional referendum, I would really rely on community feedback. It may be the case that although there has been this promise of no referendum for the next 10 years, that the community might see the value in increasing their tax contributions to provide for a new school. Again, thankfully, I don't think that that's the path that we're on for the next, hopefully it is the 10 years, if not longer. But again, I just think the community feedback is so important, and our role is to really effectuate what the community's wishes and goals are for the district as best as possible. So I would want to know what the community, and especially the community that's feeding into Lincoln, would want to see for that space.
Thank you, Kimberly and Jennifer.
As far as the schools go, Lincoln is our older, one of our oldest schools in our district. And it, as everyone had stated, I think the school district has done a great job maintaining it with the allocated dollars every year from our operating budget, just to try to hold it and maintain the school. From that perspective, though, I do believe that when we ran for referendum and our statements, as far as our vision and our goals and how we would support a past referendum needs to hold true. And so for me, I would not be interested in any type of changes that would need us to go to referendum again if it was less than that 10-year mark. But also I think that the administration and the community is, and the board members are aware of that and would really push to have creative solutions. When I mentioned earlier that you need to challenge administration, you need to push back and make sure that they're aware of what are the solutions, and they do an amazing job coming up with them. And so I would just challenge the administration to do so, so that we would not have to go to referendum again.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, our last and final question is going to begin with Rachel, and it reads as follows. The referendum that was supported by voters last March is generating approximately $60 million in new revenue for the district over the next 10 years. Because of that additional money, will you advocate to lower fees starting in 2020-21 when it comes to transportation and other activities, or should the district keep costs where they're at, and then why?
Thank you. This was a recent conversation within the past few months at the school board meetings about the potential lowering of fees, such as Kids Corner, such as transportation, or even curriculum fees, which affect all of our students. And it was decided at the time to maintain currently the fees as they are, being that they have not been raised for the past 8 years. I agree with that decision, given that cutting the fees would have made the district budget or the district reserves drop below the 30% line within a period of 2 to 3 years. I do not think that the current fee structure is ideal, And over the long term, I think I would like to see the district work towards reducing fees or not profiting as much from the Kids Corner in order to supplement for the transportation fees. I don't see it as necessarily a fair structure to have the fees from one group cover the cost of the others. But I think this is a longer-term conversation.
Thank you, Rachel. Kimberly?
I agree. I think that for as grateful as I am for the new referendum funds, unfortunately, the district doesn't seem to be in a position as yet where we can stop or even pare back at the level that I would like to our reliance on the funds from various fees. And to my mind, I honestly think that if we are to scale back fees, it should be at a level that really makes a difference to the families that are paying them. I think in the conversation, the proposal was that the fees would decrease by about $25 for busing. And in the grand scheme, yes, it is a decrease, but it's not meaningful, it's nominal at best. And so I'd like to see us get to a position where we can really make an impact on the lives of families. I think as far as Kids Corner goes, the fees are much larger than what other districts pay, and I think we should either improve the services that are offered or look at some other options for decreasing the impact on families.
Thank you, Kimberly. Jennifer?
So prior to the referendum being passed, the administration was prepared to reduce curriculum and staffing as a result of it. So although the referendum did pass, it was basically needed to kind of maintain and move forward for the upcoming years. That being said, I do think that there's opportunity. In the past, recently we had a vote on the curriculum fees as well as the transportation fees. I did vote, I was one of the nay voters on it because I really felt that we should have given some type of discount to students that had multiple bus riders in the district because busing from a transportation perspective is very expensive. It's one of our highest fees, over $400. And so if you have multiple students needing transportation, it could be quite expensive. So I had voted against the passing of it. I did not succeed. I was overruled by the rest of the board members. But I do think we should always look at it and see if there's any opportunity to be able to assist our community members when it comes to cost.
Thank you, Jennifer. Christine, you're going to be doing the last answered question.
Okay, great. I have been following the conversation with the projections and how, working with the fees would impact the reserves, and so I wouldn't be in favor of that. I think, though, that there's always room to explore, different approaches, including Kids Corner, changing that program and its fees and what it offers families, getting a lot of input, obviously, from the families that use Kids Corner, but also possibly exploring a formula that would offer some sort of relief for need-based families, just so that, everyone in Mount Prospect are able to, take full advantage of our great schools and not have such a burden with the fees that they're facing.
Thank you. That concludes our questions. Thank you all for your thoughtful answers. We're going to begin with our closing remarks. And we're going to start with Rachel.
Okay. My youngest daughter is currently in kindergarten in District 57, meaning that she will graduate from Lincoln Middle School in the spring of 2027. She'll be 13, probably very different from the 5-year-old that lives with me currently, though I feel strongly that her father and I will look the exact same. No, but in all seriousness, my goal for that future scenario is that our schools have continued to grow and to evolve, much as she will. And as I seek to give her a solid foundation on which to grow, that's what I hope that the contributions of the members of our school board can do for our district. This will require identifying our priorities and making very efficient fiscal decisions based upon frequent community feedback. I believe that my background in public education can contribute a unique perspective to the board and this conversation, one that's not currently represented. Again, my name is Rachel Rotroff. I thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope that I will earn your vote on April 2nd.
Thank you, Rachel. Christine?
Thank you. I look forward to serving all of you as a member of the District 57 Board of Education. Engagement and communications are key. Community members want clear updates, they want calls to action to be involved, and they want difficult information boiled down to easily understood facts. My background is a perfect fit to provide this kind of information for our community and for our families. And I really look forward to making the processes more transparent and engaging as a board member. We have a really great school district. We have a great community. It's a very exciting time to be in Mount Prospect. And thank you for taking the time to get to know the candidates better and for voting. Thanks.
Thank you, Christine. Jennifer?
So as the incumbent to the school district, I have to say that as you listen to these three amazing women, I think the school district overall is going to be in amazing hands. Although there's only 3 openings, any one of us, it would just be amazing for the school district. For me, I feel like the reason why I'm running again and running for reelection is the passion for specifically School District 57, and I feel like my work's not done. We've had a lot of turnover recently just because of terms expiring, and so outside of our current vice president, I have the most tenure on the school board, and I feel like that brings a consistency and stability that will be needed for the upcoming term, especially as we continue to work through the referendum and other teacher negotiations, as we had talked about, and other items that will be coming up in the next 4 years. With that, I really hope that you vote on April 2nd, regardless of who you vote for, because it's very important, and would love your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And our last closing remark is from Kimberly.
Thank you. I operate in this community in 3 aspects. As an attorney, I can understand complex issues such as those that our district is facing. As a mom, I care about the educational experiences of all of our students. And as a community member, I seek to enhance the performance of our schools to benefit property values and the overall cohesiveness of our community. I want to thank as well all of my fellow candidates who have made this experience very challenging and rewarding, and I echo Jennifer that no matter who you vote for, I trust that our district will be in great hands. That said, I would appreciate your vote for me, and I thank you all very much for your time, and thanks to the Journal for hosting as well.
Thank you. The election will be held on April 2nd. We have 4 candidates running for 3 4-year seats on the Mount Prospect School District 57 Board of Education. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. We will now begin with the candidates who are running for the Village of Mount Prospect Board of Trustees. There's 6 people running for 3 4-year seats on the board, and they are Yulia Bekic and Augie Filippone, Paul Hofer, Jeff Nadel, Richard Rogers, Colleen Sacatelli. Hopefully I got everybody's name. I think I did, right? Close enough?
Close enough.
Okay, good. So, as you know, as you've probably seen from what we've done in the past, we're going to begin with some opening remarks from everybody, going from left to right. You'll have a 2-minute opening for that. Then we will go through a series of questions, also from left to right, but moving one person down each time. And then at the end, we'll have a 1-minute closing remark with starting with Colleen and going right to left. So with that, Yulia, if you would please begin your opening remarks.
Great. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you to the Journal and Topics for hosting this forum and giving us an opportunity to introduce ourselves to the voters. My name is Yulia Bekic, and I am running for Mount Prospect Village Trustee because I am committed to this community. I own a home, I'm a taxpayer here, and most importantly, I'm raising 2 wonderful children in this community, which gives me a vested interest in ensuring that Mount Prospect continues to be successful and vibrant. As a woman, a working parent, and a first-generation American, I hope to bring a new, fresh perspective to the village board. I've spent the last 4 years here in Mount Prospect volunteering with local organizations and helping with state and local campaigns, which gave me a unique opportunity to meet with the residents of this community and to get a better understanding as to how they feel about the relationship between them and the local government. And I plan to use that experience and the connections I've made to continue to work to reinforce and enhance the relationship between our local government and the community at large. As a certified public accountant with over 15 years of professional experience in real estate and private business, I will bring experience and expertise to the village board to help with considering some of the major real estate developments that we're embarking on in the near future. I know what questions to ask. I always do my homework, and I understand the terminology fully. In the weeks ahead, I hope to speak with each and every one of you about your vision and your ideas for Mount Prospect. So together, we can work to ensure that Mount Prospect is well prepared for the future and continues to be a thriving, successful, and welcoming community. Thank you, and I hope to earn your vote on April 2nd.
Thank you, Yulia. Augie?
Hey. Hi. I'm Augie Filippone. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm the son of immigrants. My father immigrated here from Italy when he was 17, alone, high school dropout. My mother came here when she was much younger with her family. They had a restaurant at Schiller Park. And as most small business immigrant families do, they had their kids working there very, very early. So at the age of 8, I was working in the back making salads and pasta because no one that's paying for a salad or pasta wants to see an 8-year-old making it. I didn't fully appreciate then the values that working alongside my parents and seeing them fulfill their dream and working to build their business and provide for their family allowed me. But those are values that have been instilled in me, and those are values that I hold today, and I try and instill in my children. Hard work, determination, honesty, kindness. I grew up in Morton Grove, and after graduating from Maine East High School, go Blue Demons, I attended college and went to law school. My wife and I made Mount Prospect our home in 2013. We have 2 great kids, Olivia, 4 years old, and Ravi just turned 5. We operate a law firm right in town, just across from Lions Park. And I counsel small business owners. So essentially my clients are my parents. We kind of become that which we came from. So if you ever want to know why I make certain decisions, or why I think the way I think, or what influences my thought process, that's it. That's the genesis of who I am. Mount Prospect is already a great village, and we can be even greater. As a nearly 5-year member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm excited about the opportunities that have come before us and the opportunities that are on the horizon. It's an exciting time in Mount Prospect, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm running to move Mount Prospect forward.
Thank you,
Thank
Augie. Paul?
Good evening. I'm Paul Hofert, your village trustee. I've been your voice and your advocate on the village government for 28 years. Thanks to the Journal for making this opportunity available. My top five priorities: continuing a conservative approach to our village finances. My record shows that I'm fiscally responsible. Keeping annual spending and tax levies as low as possible is a top priority. I've supported 28 balanced budgets, a diversified tax and fee base, and I've fought to keep our property taxes down. In fact, during our recent budget process, I proposed and found support for a 0%, no increase in our 2019 tax levy. Strong life safety services. Maintaining a strong police, fire, and public works department is a critical priority. Life safety services are the most important services that we can receive as citizens. I know because I'm living proof of that. When you need an ambulance, a fire truck, or a police car to show up, there can be no compromise. Protecting our residential neighborhoods, protecting the delicate fabric of our residential neighborhoods from negative intrusions like commercial activity and inappropriate outsized development is extremely important to me. Economic development and a vital business community. Our local community is vibrant and it's growing. Empty storefronts have filled, and large corporations such as United, CVS, and Walgreens have made significant investments in Mount Prospect. Several new developments are underway in our downtown. Large areas of open land are being developed or redeveloped to add to our tax base. We must continue to promote Mount Prospect as a great place to do business. And annual infrastructure improvements to stay on course with our roads, our bridges, our sewers, and our water mains so that they don't cost us more in the long run. Thank you all for attending tonight, and I really look forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff?
Good evening, everybody. Glad to see everyone out tonight. My name is Jeffrey Nadel. I'm a write-in candidate for Village Board Trustee, and I'm really excited to be a part of this process, to take a new initiative, take the next step to being involved with everyone in this village. I'm a homegrown resident. My parents have also lived in Mount Prospect. They've been great examples to look after, for being great servants to the community. And that's where I get my involvement from and engagement. My background is being involved with student government, student council, having contacted local state reps in the past on issues that are also affecting our community and village, and also with volunteer hours with the Mount Prospect Historical Society. I'm a write-in candidate because I want to foster new perspectives, bring in everyone's perspective, and encourage more involvement from all the residents. I want to be committed to taking the diligent time to go through the processes to make sure everyone's voice is heard. If we go hastily through decision-making, then we lose involvement with our neighbors whose voices are so key and we need to build upon. I'm looking for your vote so I can become a new member for this village and take this opportunity to be a public servant for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
My name is Richard Rogers. I'm a registered architect and a registered professional engineer. I've lived in the village of Mount Prospect for 50 years. My wife and I moved in with our two children because of the school district here in Mount Prospect. Soon after I moved in, I realized that I needed to give back to the community. So in 1980, I joined the Sign Review Committee. What we did was reviewed all the signs within the village. If you look out there today, the signs are in great shape. Soon after that, I joined the Zoning and Planning Committee, and I served there for 10 years. Eventually, I became the chair of Zoning and Planning. At that point, the mayor asked me to fill in a 2-year unfilled commitment on the zoning board, which I did, and 2 years after that,
I was elected to a 4-year term on the zoning board. I have my own business. I am the president of ACM Associates. I have been the president for 37 years. I've got a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge about the village of Mount Prospect. Currently, I am on the financial committee for the village. I am on the Northwest Community Conference Finance Committee, and I am on the Noise Control Committee for the Chicago Executive Airport. You've probably heard recently they've been trying to expand the runways. That's been stopped.
Thank you, Richard. Our last opening remark is from Colleen.
Thank you to the Journal for hosting today's forum. My name is Colleen Saccatelli, and I'm running for re-election as village trustee. I'm originally from the northwest side of Chicago. I have a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in international affairs. I've worked in government at the state and local levels. Most recently, I worked at the Illinois Housing Development Authority and their legal department. My husband and I chose Mount Prospect for our family in 2013 for the wonderful community, great schools, and parks. I am running for re-election because I believe in the future of Mount Prospect. In a second term, I am committed to adaptive outreach and citizen engagement, village-wide economic development, long-term financial stability, and public safety. Our village is made up of many different cultures and ethnic backgrounds. I would like to see more participation from a wider variety of people. We must empower our residents to participate in government more fully by sharing with them the many functions of government. Many residents want to give back to the community. We should give them the information so they may do so. I have supported development activities throughout town. I have pushed for effective communications with the public. I developed the concept of Talk and Chalk after community members requested an informal, child-friendly setting to meet with village leaders. Finally, I promoted public safety through support of increasing fire and police staffing counts to be at pre-2010 levels. I also advocated for the police department to have a facility that meets their needs. I bring a fresh perspective to the board. I believe my first term, coupled with my government administration experience, as well as the fact that I'm a newer resident with a young family, make me extremely qualified and invested in serving for a second term. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Okay, so we're going to begin with our questions. Just a couple of comments. One, I want to remind everybody that their answers to these questions are only for 1 minute. And two, just an idea that these questions came from a lot of the residents in the area, different sources. So, that's typically how it's done. So just to make you aware of how these questions arrive. Okay, so we're going to begin with Yulia.
Again? Okay.
And our first question, which was asked by a resident, regarding new apartments being built in Mount Prospect, do you support a few of those in each new building being classified as affordable? If yes, how would you go about seeing that become a reality, thus giving low-income families a chance to live in a new, safe downtown environment?
Absolutely. Just this last weekend, I was out canvassing on the south side of Mount Prospect. And in conversations with our residents, I realized just how insufficient affordable housing is in Mount Prospect and how important an issue of having affordable, safe, and clean housing is for our community. I think we want to encourage more affordable housing here in Mount Prospect so families of all income levels can live, work, and raise a family here. I want to begin the work of doing that by understanding all income levels represented in our community and overlaying the housing availability to understand where the gaps may exist and then start to address them.
Thank you, Yulia. I think I mentioned earlier, and I'll mention it again. I hope you don't mind me calling everyone by their first names. It's just a lot easier. So, Augie. The other thing is if somebody wants me to repeat a question, feel free to ask. Augie.
Got it. Actually, going through Illinois right now, there's a bill proposed for an Illinois Rent Control Act. So, when that comes through, we're going to be looking at it, going to be deciding if that's a home rule exemption and what needs to happen there, and also how we want to move forward with it and incorporating it if that's something that's required of the entire state as well. But in terms of affordable housing, I think that question also goes to density in our village in general. And so that's the reason why we have these long-term range plans that incorporate things like the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning or local other affiliated units that make these plans, because affordable housing is one thing, but actually providing the stock to have that housing is another thing. And that's the kind of thing where the lead time is going to be a lot longer, and that's why we need to trust in our community development department in making certain that we have sustainable units and also that we can grow Mount Prospect responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you, Augie. Paul?
Affordable housing, I guess I would tell you that's a relative thing. So in Mount Prospect, in my mind, we have quite a bit of affordable housing in different areas of town. And affordable to one person is not affordable to another. I understand that. But I actually have a few rental properties, and I think I rent them out or my wife and I rent them out at a pretty affordable price, and a very reasonable price. And they're in the downtown. But on the south end of Mount Prospect, we have quite a few apartment complexes that are reasonable, and on the north side as well. And in the downtown, the newer units that are coming online, they're going to be smaller. They're going to be studio apartments. They're going to be one bedrooms, and they're going to be priced accordingly. So it's great to have a wide financial demographic in our village, and I think we have that.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff?
Looking at why people move to a certain neighborhood, I think the top 3 reasons would be affordable housing, the school districts, and the parks. And if we don't have, number 1, affordable housing set, then we don't have new neighbors coming in. We don't have new residents. We need to look at the surrounding areas, the markets, to find examples of where we could do better ourselves, where others don't do as well, but where we can do better. We have new apartment complexes coming up in the downtown, and those will be good areas to look at for keeping affordable housing in control so that our new residents can come in.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
Mount Prospect has a great deal of affordable housing right now. As Paul mentioned, the south side has a number of apartment units. They are affordable. The state requirement is 10% of affordable housing. Mount Prospect has over 30% of affordable housing. And again, affordable is how you define it. The new apartments going in, particularly in the downtown area, will attract a lot of young people who are on limited budgeted. So we're hopeful that these apartments, because they are smaller, will bring in a lot of new residents into the village of Mount Prospect.
Thank you, Richard. Colleen?
As I mentioned before, I worked at the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and we gave grants for affordable housing throughout the state. I believe quality housing should be made available to residents with a variety of economic backgrounds. We recently, as a board, approved a senior housing development in Kensington that will be affordable housing for those seniors. And we want people in our town to be able to live here as long as possible. So enabling people to age in place, age in town, having facilities open to them to be able to stay here where they've lived all their lives is very important. We talked about the different housing throughout town. It's very important that everyone feel connected to North and South, feel connected. So I'm very much in favor of looking at ways we can connect parts of town, whether it be through sidewalks or looking at the bus routes to make sure that people can freely travel throughout town. These are all important factors that help quality of life for our residents.
Thank you, Colleen. Okay, our second question will begin with Augie, and this again was asked by a resident. Do you feel this vehicle, the vehicle sticker issue, I'll call it, has caused any paying to minority populations in Mount Prospect? And if so, what kind of long-term impact, if any, do you think it has cost?
Well, it was definitely a teaching moment, and for me, whenever I see any issues dealing with this, whether it's race or minority, I need to look at it through the lens of my family. My wife is minority, she's Indian. We have 2 biracial children. So it's not just my worldview that counts, it's generally. And, we have a lot of diversity in this town. We have a lot of immigrant-owned businesses. We have a lot of different viewpoints and diversity, not just in terms of skin color, but also financial, other beliefs. And so, but we learned from it, and we took affirmative steps was the key thing that happened, which was, citizen engagement committee, additional celebration of culture that's going to be provided and to bring these groups together. And they're going to be affirmative actions. They're not just words that we're using as well.
Thank you, Augie. Paul?
So the vehicle sticker, I agree with Augie. We learned from that situation. Certainly nobody on village staff and nobody on your village board meant to be insensitive. Although the patch itself has been around for a long time, but it's been co-opted, and that's very unfortunate. So there was no intent to hurt anybody's feelings, no intent to slight any cultures, anything like that. Once we understood what had happened, we made another sticker available that, as Augie said, referenced the celebration of cultures. That's where we want to move forward on celebrating the various cultures we have in this community. We had a great event down in South Mount Prospect, and we're going to have a lot more of those kinds of events as we celebrate our diversity here in Mount Prospect.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff?
In the days following the vehicle sticker discussion, especially at Coffee with Council, I was there, and there's a very great statement made by the mayor, and the trustees also made great comments, and it was mainly a great starting point led by community members on ways that we can become more diverse, ways that we can have more engaging conversations. And I look forward to seeing those community members who did bring up those ideas for fostering perspective and engagement with the board on diversity. I hope to see them come to more meetings, Coffee with Council sessions, and be more involved, because that's the way we will sustain that discussion of better community.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
Yes, for the most part, Mount Prospect tries to get diversity. What happens is people move here because it's a great place to live. So we can't really say we only want a certain group of people. We are a diverse community. We're very fortunate to be a diverse community. And what we are trying to do is to make sure that all of the people in Mount Prospect are treated equally. We've had several coffee with councils and things to promote diversity within the community. The special events that we've had will promote additional diversity within the community. And it draws people because of the fact that they see that they can feel comfortable here.
Thank you, Richard. Colleen?
I think the situation was also a teachable moment. I had said this at Coffee with the Council. These feelings that the situation brought up existed before the sticker, and they're going to exist after. And so it's what can we do as a community to address these issues and feelings. According to the U.S. Census, 31% of Mount Prospect residents are foreign-born, and 36% speak a language other than English at home. So this is something important that we need to focus on as a community, and how do we get people to feel engaged and able to work together as a community. I think the village has made great strides in that we had done some diverse population surveys, finding key people and different backgrounds within the community to be stakeholders and to bring them to the table. We have the Celebration of Cultures event, which I helped organize the Sister Cities participation in, and we're going to go forward with that again next year. And I think we're at a great great point of working together with all of our cultures in town.
Thank you, Colleen. Yulia?
Yes, thank you. Was there a pain caused by the issue, was the question, and I'm afraid so. And with regards to the long-term impact, I think we need to be very deliberate with ensuring that we continue to encourage diversity in our community. Colleen mentioned the statistic about 33% of the community being foreign-born. I was born outside of the United States. I hope to bring a new perspective to the village board. But even if I'm elected, we cannot stop there. We have to be intentional and deliberate with our recruitment and support for folks in this community who are not currently represented on the boards, on the commissions, among our staff. This is extremely important, and if we're successful, we will be better prepared for the next controversy. Thank you.
Thank you, Yulia. Okay, Paul, I think we're up to you right now with another resident question. And it goes something like this. How do you think the village should support homeowners that have already installed solar panels, and how should it support those looking to install solar panels and other green technologies in the future?
There's been a lot of progress made in solar panels, and a lot is coming to the forefront now around that type of energy. We've run across this before. It's when you're first in as a homeowner, it's hard then to go back, right? So we had this with where we put some sewer improvements in a residential neighborhood, and we paid for part of that. But unfortunately, people who had already put their money into their own homes, we couldn't go back and rebate. There is maybe a way to look at that if it's very recent, but if it's certainly some time ago, that wouldn't be possible, I don't believe. But I would encourage some incentives there to bring this around and to lessen our dependency on traditional energy sources, for sure.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff?
I'm the one candidate that has brought up in articles about sustainability and green initiatives, and this is a great idea. Back at Harper Community College, I was on student government. We worked on a project to bring solar panels to our campus. At the time, it wasn't feasible, but that was 5 years ago. Technology has grown now, and I want to make sure that the technology that we would support for the homeowners for solar panels is highly qualified and high quality so that they can enjoy the solar panels and don't have any problems like we experienced when I was doing that project. It's something that needs more homework, of course, but we need to look at this as a good starting point for homeowners to get invested and involved with a sustainability initiative for the village.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
You know, a lot of people have invested in solar panels already. We have several programs that we support. The Commonwealth Edison is now starting a wind program where they will give you an incentive for using wind power to generate electricity. So a combination of solar panels, wind panels, and other green items will definitely help to lower the electrical consumption and make our village much more efficient. We would do in any kind of incentives to try to increase those programs. And we are working right now with Commonwealth Edison on the wind program. So thank you.
Thank you. Colleen?
I'm in favor of promoting sustainability and its sustainable practices. I don't know enough to speak to people that have already put solar panels and what we could do for them, but I would be in favor of having a village committee of the whole to talk about sustainability in our village as a whole. We could talk about solar panels and people's concerns or experiences with them and what they're needing from us. Talking about our wonderful organics recycling program that has taken off, and learning more what we can do as a community to work together to promote sustainability.
Thank you, Colleen. Yulia?
Yes, thank you. Yesterday, I attended a committee of the whole discussion that identified climate change as a reason for some significant flooding that's occurring on the northeast side of our community. So I think we have to acknowledge that climate change is a real challenge that we're dealing with. And I hope that our village can be the trailblazer in terms of supporting sustainable development, conservation efforts, and alternative energy sources such as solar, wind. Our wonderful residents are already embarking on those initiatives, and I think we have to do what we can to support them, as well as introduce sustainable sources to the development projects that we're embarking on, as well as utilizing those sources for our municipal buildings.
Thank you. The last answer to this question will come from Augie.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that would say they wouldn't want to be able to live on Earth in 50 years. So green, sustainable, all great things, all anyone with half a brain would want to support. I think the question that was asked from the reader was more specifically about what is happening in town and how to make things easier for them to make sure that if they want to put in these solar panels or even these tiles like Tesla's subsidiary company is putting out, how to do that. And I think that if there's any process where there's a delay, where there's extreme lead times, if there's any issues, our village government, our staff, especially in code enforcement, Bill Schroeder's just been doing a fantastic job over there in streamlining and responding to resident concerns. So those are things that we can look at and make certain that the permitting process is done properly, that we have adequate staffing in order to inspect those so that they are done safely and that they protect the community as a whole and that they are in compliance with the codes that we do have in Mount Prospect so that we can keep this a great town.
Thank you, Augie. Okay, our Jeff, you get our next question. So let me read this to you. In the recent voting cycle, a majority of residents have voted to increase minimum wage. The village has opted out of Cook County minimum wage rules. Do you believe Mount Prospect should now opt in? Why or why not?
For myself, I need to do my homework and find out where we are for the wage. I see that every resident of Mount Prospect is working hard enough to make this village great. We're always thriving. Doing the homework to make sure that we find ways that all of our residents are paid well enough needs to be a priority with the local businesses, with the Chamber of Commerce, seeing what we can do to take initiative on this and not fall behind.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
Well, everyone deserves a livable wage. There's no question about that. We have voted several times not to increase it in Mount Prospect because of the fact that we use a lot of outside contractors. We are mandated by the state of Illinois to pay minimum wage to outside contractors. We are also following the state of Illinois wage increases as they come along. So we are basically following what has been presented by the state of Illinois so that we are in compliance with those codes. I agree that we can always do more, but we are doing exactly what is required. So thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Colleen?
So this is a state level issue. That's why I voted the way I did initially. So I would be following the state's lead on what they were looking to implement. But I think as a village, we should work with our businesses to better understand the impacts and to educate the community on what this means for them.
Appreciate it, Colleen. Yulia?
Well, thanks to Governor Pritzker, this issue has been resolved. We now have $15 an hour minimum wage in the state of Illinois. And as an active participant in the spree of opt-outs, encouraging municipalities to not opt out of the minimum wage mandate by Cook County, I am very excited that this has gotten accomplished. The existing minimum wage was a poverty wage, whether it's contractors or anyone else. We cannot allow our citizens to live in poverty. And I think it's a moral issue, and as I've already stated, I'm very glad that it has been resolved by our new governor.
Thank you, Yulia. Augie?
Well, the context in all this is going to really be what it is, and the devil's in the details. I mean, we just saw Amazon was probably the biggest one that did it, where they increased the wage, but then they took away the health benefits. So you squeeze one side, and then you just allow people to blow up on the other side. I think what's important here is that we need to have an open channel of communication with our businesses. All our small businesses that are mainly affected by these minimum wage hours, wages, and by other things like that, you know, these are mom and pop shops. They're trying to work every day to put a life on the table for their own children, and every employee that they have is also someone that eats before them. So when we get things like video gambling, or when we get to talking about development, which is going to help our small businesses thrive and be able to succeed and be able to go beyond even the minimum wage, we need to be willing to give that assistance to our small business owners. And you know, to be honest, a lot of the small business owners are residents here in Mount Prospect as well. So you get a 2-for-1 deal on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Augie. Paul?
I would agree that everyone deserves a livable wage, that's for sure. But the reason that we opted out is because, as been said, this is a state or federal issue, not a local issue. And when you decide at the local level to raise to a minimum wage, you potentially make the businesses in your community uncompetitive with the surrounding communities. So we weren't in favor of doing that for that reason. We wanted this handled at the state level, and it has been handled, and that's where it belonged. We had the same kind of issue a few years ago with the smoking ordinances, if you remember. Every community was putting smoking ordinances in place because the state wouldn't take the lead. Well, they finally did, and it settled it for the entire state. That's how these kinds of issues need to be handled.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, let's see. Our next question goes to Richard. Richard, if and when the village files a lawsuit or has one filed against them, would you be open to at least informing the public that a suit has been filed so that they are aware of what is happening, since defense of any litigation comes at the expense of the taxpayer? Why or why not?
I'm sorry, you were talking down, and I didn't hear all of what you said.
Let me slow it down
Could you
and read it again.
yeah.
Of course I would. If and when the village files a lawsuit or has one filed against them, would you be open to at least informing the public that a suit has been filed so that they are aware of what is happening, since the defense of any litigation comes at the expense of the taxpayer? Why or why not?
Yes. What happens is we do put most of the things on the website. So if a suit is filed, we first try to resolve it before it becomes an issue. If it does become an issue, it is put on our website. It is out there. We are transparent so that the people know what's happening. We always try to be open with the public and hopefully get their input. And our public is not really shy about telling us what to do. So we're trying to do our best to protect the village through all of these kinds of events, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you, Richard. Colleen?
I'm very much in favor of being as open with our residents as we can be. With lawsuits, I would imagine sometimes there's privacy issues. So things that are subject to FOIA, that are public record, should be disclosed to people. All of our legal fees are on our warrant list, our monthly bills and the village board packet, so people can follow and see that. And then for settlements, we vote on them in open meetings, so people are aware of them.
Thank you, Colleen. Yulia?
Yes, thank you. I believe, and I'm not an attorney, but any lawsuit becomes a part of public record. So the filing of the lawsuit is probably, available to the general community. But I think we, and part of my campaign, the large part of my campaign is citizen engagement and community outreach and transparency. We do have to provide as much detail as we legally can to the community, because as the person who submitted the question pointed out, ultimately the taxpayer is the one who pays the settlement. Therefore, input from the taxpayers is important, and transparency with regards to the details that can legally be shared should also be out in the public space.
Thank you, Yulia. Augie?
Yeah, as an attorney, I'm dealing with this every day. And so when you have a lawsuit against the village, just think about it as having, 50,000 clients, essentially. So there are some things that you just can't really disclose to the public, because guess what? If you disclose them to the public, you disclose them to opposing counsel and the other side, which is why the Open Meetings Act specifically has a carve-out for private meetings in the back, which are normally done before village hall meetings, to discuss things like employment issues internally, to discuss lawsuits, things like that. In terms of the lawsuit itself, all that information is available online. If it's filed in Cook County, you can go on Dorothy Brown's website and receive that. But as much information as can be allowed in order to protect the privileges that are involved in it is allowed to the public. And so the concern is just too much being let out. But I hear you with the costs, and those are also available online. And actually on that board back there, I think one of the priority points for the next year is going to be reviewing attorney fees and spending and insurance plans as well to address that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul?
Our government process in Mount Prospect is very open, I'm telling you. And as Augie says, when you're in a lawsuit, you maybe can't disclose your defense and where you're headed because it puts us at a disadvantage, and us is you. So we have to keep that part under wraps. But in terms of lawsuits being filed against the village, that's public information. We would never hide that from anybody. Also, settlements are not always open to public review or public scrutiny because by court order, we can't speak about them sometimes. That's just the fact. So in terms of lawsuits, the larger lawsuits have all been in the public information domain, that's for sure. The papers have reported on it. It's been on the websites. In terms of slips and falls and things like that, I don't think everybody wants to be involved in that. But certainly the larger lawsuits that we've been involved with, the public has been well aware of them over the last few years.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff, you'll be the last answer to the question.
This board is always on the forefront of transparency, especially on their website and in person, and making sure that, of course, whoever needs to be protected by law is protected. But the information of the lawsuit itself should be public information, as all of us as residents need to know this kind of material, because all these legal matters in one way or another will be like a chain reaction to bigger issues possibly, and knowing where things may have started with legal issues needs to be known so that we have a full perspective of the actions on the board.
Thank you, Jeff. Colleen, there's always one question that you kind of know is coming, and this was asked by a resident, so let me get it out. With the proposed Maple Street Lofts project coming forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission, March 14th, tomorrow, and the Village Board April 3rd for final approval, what are your thoughts and what would your vote be as the project is currently presented on the website?
So I've talked about this a lot. Density is needed in the downtown to get more businesses. People say that they want a market in the downtown. We're hearing from the business community that they're not going to come to our downtown because there's not enough people to support the businesses. So there's going to need to be more people in the downtown. We're not seeing it as a board yet, but the proposal, the idea of that number of people and the type of development with the mixed use, I think is an important addition to the downtown. People are concerned about traffic, and the village is working short and long-term solutions on that. The idea of police and fire moving out of the downtown is going to help that tremendously because the lights aren't going to be altered all the time. So I'm in favor of growing the downtown and bringing more people to the downtown.
Thank you, Colleen. Yulia?
While I have some thoughts on downtown development, I'm going to address just the Maple Street question, or Maple Street Lofts. I have some concerns as it tax nerd, tax real estate nerd with this development. First, I'm worried about the competition, both external in nearby communities. Des Plaines is on a spree of building a lot of multifamily, and internal competition. We've got 20 West, 10 North Main, and other projects going up. So I want to be real thoughtful with regards to whether we're creating supply that can be met with demand. I'm concerned with the amount of taxpayer incentives that are being used for this development. $11 million is what I've seen so far. I'm concerned with the lack of affordable units, or I don't believe any have been proposed to be part of this development. Lack of green space is a big issue. And until these issues are addressed with practical solutions, I don't think this is a good fit or a good investment for our community.
Thank you, Yulia. Augie?
Seeing as I'm going to be up here tomorrow dealing with this issue, I'll reserve judgment until then, and I think that really anyone that gives an up or down vote right now, whether they're incumbent, challenger, myself, you can't do it. Otherwise, you'd preclude yourself. And whether I have a conflict, if I am allowed to serve on the village board with my P&Z vote, remains to be seen. But I knew this was a possibility, and I'm the only person that's going to have a vote on Maple Street. I'm the only one that you're going to know exactly what they think. I'm the only one that's going to have their views actually presented. Everyone else is going to get, at the very least, until April 3rd, maybe beyond. We'll see what happens. But again, I'm not a politician. I do the job. I've been looking over the packet, been in conversation with staff. It's a significant packet for anyone that's seen it online. It's been thoroughly vetted process, and this has actually started since 2013 because the original strategic plan actually proposed this specific area with similar buildings there as well. So this has been a long time coming.
Thank you, Augie. Paul?
I've been integrally involved with downtown redevelopment for over 30 years. The reason I'm on this board is because there was a development right across from my street that was proposed, and I got active. And every development since then, I have been integrally involved with every building that's been built because I see it as very important. Lately, I voted for the Park Place row homes. I voted for 20 West, which is going up right across the street. I voted for Central and Main because we do need more vitality in the downtown. I understand that. But when it comes to Maple Street lofts, I'm very concerned about the density, which then produces traffic and all kinds of problems. And I will tell you that one thing the developer said to us is, well, with all the tax money you're going to get from Maple Street lofts, you can solve the traffic problems after the fact. And I said, that's crazy. You create a problem and then try to solve it. Let's solve these problems ahead of time. Let's understand the concerns of that neighborhood, and let's be sensitive.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff?
The village board needs to take careful steps to go forward with residential development. We already have, as mentioned, Central and 83, Park Terrace, and 20 West. The board needs to look at the success that is built from those three complexes for the future for Maple Street lofts some other time. The other concern I see is the parking lot structure that's being proposed, where right now there's about 220 commuter lots for daily parking for train commuters, for our Metro users, and it's being reduced down to about 180 for the available commuter sections in the parking garage. There would be about 80 available for consumers for the visiting commercial structure on the bottom, the store, whatever on the first floor, and I think that's a disservice to the train commuters and all the other commuters for that lot.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
Certainly, we'd like to develop the downtown area. It will bring in additional business. The loft building that was now proposed, I had a chance to take a look at some of the drawings. We've only gotten it for 2 days now, so I haven't done an in-depth study. However, I applaud the developer for reducing the height of the building. The building has now come down and it's only 6 stories versus a much higher building as proposed originally. As far as the parking goes, the parking garage, the parking existing is about 285 spaces. It will be reduced to 222, but an additional 50 spaces on the street parking, which are not available today. In addition, the garage right here on this building will be used for an additional 100 parking spaces. So it will be a much better situation in the future.
Thank you, Richard. Well, you know what? You guys have done such a good job answering those questions that I think we're going to ask you a few more. How's that sound? Is that all right with everybody? We were going to go till 9.
We're here for it.
We still have plenty of time.
All night.
So we have all night. Okay, let's start out with Yulia again. And the question is, in the last few years, a former police chief presented a plan to increase the number of candidates looking to serve as a police officer in Mount Prospect by opening up to the pool to non-U.S. citizens who are obtaining their citizenship. With less and less people applying to become officers, not just there, but everywhere, would you consider that a request again? Why and why not? Or why not?
The controversy with the acceptance of non-citizens to be eligible to be police officers in Mount Prospect happened before my time, but I've read up on the situation, and I've also seen a lot of news coverage in other police departments around the country that there is a significant shortage of eligible applicants. And therefore, I would definitely be in support of allowing folks who are non-citizens that are in process. I believe that was the requirement before, the idea before, that any eligible candidate who was in pursuit of United States citizenship could apply, go through the training, and become a Mount Prospect police officer.
Thank you, Yulia. Augie?
Yeah, anytime the police chief, anytime the fire chief, anytime any staff head asks for any resources, assistance, or requests, I'm going to perk up. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to trust their judgment. And so that came at a time, I believe, when there was a significant number of people also leaving the police force. And so especially with police and fire, when they're putting their lives on the line every single day, and you know, there are no atheists in foxholes, and there are no lines or colors or you know, beliefs when you're with your brothers and sisters doing the kind of work that police officers specifically do to protect us day in, day out. It's the same reason I always say, you are never going to see me say do not fund pensions. That's going to be a high priority, because we put those people volunteer their lives every single day to protect us, and so I'm going to protect them back and have their back, and that's one way where the village board is able to do that for those men and women.
Thank you, Augie. Paul?
So this issue did come before us a number of years ago now, and it was a possibility to do. We got a lot of feedback from the community. We got a lot of feedback from beyond the community that was not in favor of it. And so as a board, we decided that we didn't need to go down this road. I have huge respect for our first responders. And if somebody is working towards citizenship, on the verge of citizenship, I would certainly consider them as a candidate to serve as a first responder. But they have to be on that path, that's for sure. But at the point in time, we actually had, I think we had potentially one candidate. We were looking for a large pool of candidates because it's true, we were having a hard time. I think that actually has improved, but if our current chief thinks this is an avenue to head down, I would certainly be open to it.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff?
It's great that there are so many residents who are willing to take up that sacrifice, take up that responsibility. As a board, we need to make sure that we're talking with the police chief, staff, the community, making sure that we're engaging with everyone to find the right avenue so that we can find a way to get these candidates on board for our police force. Making sure that we follow those rules of their process through citizenship is followed is a priority through that process. But going through the proper people to talk to, like the police chief, first off, is a priority.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
Certainly, we have always tried to respond to the community. Because we have a diverse community, we have been hiring a lot of police officers who speak a different language. And that is because we have pockets of various kinds of cultural people within the community. I certainly would be in favor of hiring a police officer or a fireman who is not a citizen if they are on the path to citizenship. There's been a lot of negative response from the community about hiring someone who is not a citizen who might arrest a citizen of the village. So that's why we voted it down a couple of years ago. But things are changing rapidly, and I think, maybe now is the time.
Thank you, Richard. Colleen?
I would go with the recommendation of the police chief at the time if the applicants were on the path to citizenship. I think overall, though, we as a village are putting our police department in a better position to get quality candidates with doing things like providing them with a new headquarters that's going to be able to allow them to do 21st century police work like they need to. It's a safer building for our staff and for victims and residents that might need to come into the building. I think the police department's doing an amazing job with their community policing activities and engagement activities, and I think that applicants will see the great work that we're doing here, that our police staff is doing, and the environment and the support that they receive from the community, so that will set them up in the future for having a greater number of applicants.
Thank you, Colleen. Augie, we're going to start our next question with you.
Go.
And with the village close to completing all annexations of unincorporated parcels, it is likely in the next few years the Elk Grove Fire Protection District will no longer be sustainable. Should the village take over that station on the far south side, bringing the total number to 4 stations, or should the village assist the Fire Protection District to keep them operable? Fully explain your answer.
The first call I would make for that is to Chief Lamble and just ask him what's going on. Is this something where we need it? What is it going to cost to maintain it? Do you have adequate service people to be there? Because you got 24 hour operation on those things. And we've gone through this with concerning the move to the new fire station, which is going to be closer to the Rand corridor intersection. And so really it's going to come down to, Chief, what do you think? What kind of resources do you need? Is this something viable? And also response times too, because we have a priority to those lands and those people in that area to make certain that they have services, that they're safe, that they're not waiting 2 hours to respond to a fire. I know that's being a little bit overly broad, but it can feel like that when your house is burning down and your valuables and your entire life is burning down in front of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Augie. Paul?
I agree that Chief Lambell would be the person to advise us on this, but the fire district in the south is not going to be economically viable, so it won't live on. And we're likely going to annex some other properties down there. So then we have to think about, what do we do? Do we maintain 3 stations but put another station down in that area? Or do we have 4 stations? What's the most economical? And what allows us to respond, and I think our response time is just over 4 minutes, that we want to be on site. If we can't do it with 3 stations, then it'll be 4, because we have to provide protection. I've already said that. First responder protection for all of our citizens and all of our businesses. If we can't do that from 3 stations, we'll do it from 4.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff?
With the recent movement of the downtown fire station to Rand Road, I know, looking back, that the response times and response areas increased for the village. So that's a great thing. And looking to the fire chief for advice of what to do for a possible 4th station is the best route to go on. With the 3 stations having increased coverage for response time, it's great. And if we see the need for a fourth station come up, then it'll have to be an economic call of how much do we need to invest to have 100% coverage. Because I think right now we're in the upper 90s, which is great. And how much does 100% coverage cost for us and protection for the citizens?
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
Yes, we are already in conference with the Elk Grove Fire Department. They are a rural fire department, and they are losing their district from both Mount Prospect and from Elk Grove Village. So there's no question that it will not be, their department will not be sustainable. We are assisting them right now financially in order for them to stay active. However, at some point in the near future, they will not be able to maintain that. So we've had conversations, and I don't exactly know where they're at, and I don't really want to divulge anything at this point. But at the same time, we're talking to them about either taking them over or possibly, just eliminating them and building a new fire station on the south side. So those possibilities are in the works right now because it's inevitable that this is going to change.
Thank you, Richard. Colleen?
This is an issue that's on the horizon for us, and I would look to the fire chief's careful study that he's having of this issue and his conversations and his expertise on this to bring back an option that's the best and the safest for our fire service and our citizens.
Thank you, Colleen. Yulia?
Thank you. While it's important to, of course, consider the financial aspects and the coverage aspects, I think we should not forget that these are real people. These are firemen that have jobs, and from my understanding, from my friends who are firemen, there's a lot of anxiety with regards to the dissolution, possible dissolution. So we have to be extremely sensitive to what happens to our to the first responders that currently are part of that fire protection district.
Thank you, Yulia. Paul, I think we'll begin our questioning with you.
Good.
With one tax increment financing, TIF district already established in town, would you be open to more to spur other development in other areas of the village? Why or why not?
I would consider additional TIF districts if we need them. There are other tools to use as well. But the first TIF district returned $18 million in increased EAV, which then all the taxing bodies had benefit of. The new TIF, the current TIF, encompasses an area where EAV has been dropping dramatically over the last few years. We can't allow that devaluation to continue. So I supported the second TIF district. They're a legitimate, legal, viable tool to use, and we've shown that they work. But there are other tools too. You know, we worked with Randhurst on tax abatement and such. We never put any upfront money, but Randhurst had a revitalization, and when they reached to the point where they were producing the same tax levels that they were before the mall was torn down and such, then we started sharing taxes with them. So if we can build tax structures or structures incentives around that kind of method, that's the way to go.
Thank you, Paul. Jeff?
The current TIF district, there are other ways to promote development. There doesn't need to be the gut and knee reaction of increasing when we start to panic. There are always other options. There are skilled, qualified people that we have on staff and within the village to help guide with different avenues of development for TIF districting.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard?
The existing TIF that we have now, the properties that are in the TIF district were going down, which meant that there would be less tax money for the schools, less tax money for everyone who's involved, the park district, and the village. By creating that TIF, we have now leveled that tax base, so it's no longer going down. So the taxing bodies that are current
are getting the same tax they would have been not getting a reduced tax. In addition, within a period of time, we will increase substantially the tax base to the taxing bodies because of the fact that those entities will be getting much more tax from the new development, and that new development would not have happened without the TIF. The TIF supports the new development.
Thank you, Richard. Colleen?
I'm committed to village-wide economic development, so that the idea of another TIF is an important tool that could be an option to do that. But I'm also in favor of our village-wide facade program that gives businesses money to help improve their facilities, and also using the 6B incentive, which is a property tax incentive program through Cook County. So I'm in favor of evaluating and looking at all of our options to promote economic development in the village.
Thank you. Yulia?
Yeah, I was a staunch opponent of the TIF when it was being considered back in 2016. As someone who's worked in real estate for the last 15 years, I can tell you that TIF is a mixed bag of failures and successes. And because Mount Prospect is a home rule authority and has other tools to spur economic development or, pursue the construction of a police headquarters, I don't believe that TIF is the right tool. And I have a very serious concern with the fact that the TIF locks in other taxing bodies for 23 years. Even if we have $17 million return, it will have taken 23 years to get there. And the overcrowding within the TIF could put a strain on our schools, on our park district, and could cause those taxing bodies to have to go back to the residents and ask for additional tax revenues. No one here wants any more increases in property taxes.
Thank you, Yulia. Augie?
I love TIFs. TIFs are great. They work if you let them. And so when you have the game plan in order to even do the TIF study and put it on, you need to look at, all right, what are the areas that have been blighted? And what does blighted mean? Assess values on those properties that have gone down for several years. And so a TIF is just an investment in your community. And you're telling all taxi bodies, let's go all in on this. Let's put up our suspenders. Let's do something with this land because it hasn't been doing anything that we want it to. And yeah, let's lock it in for 23 years, but you're going to need that time in order to maintain construction, in order to get developers in order to grow, and in order to create the kind of community that you would like to improve. And at the end of that, Golden Rainbow is a giant pot of money. And the whole idea, if you do it properly, is school districts, park districts, infrastructure, incentivizing private dollars, you're going to have a much better area than you did before. So I'm all for TIFs. I think we look at one in the south side as well, right along the main corridor we have on 83 after all that work with the highway. Thank you.
Thank you, Augie. Jeff? Next question for you. With police and fire relocating to new facilities, what are your biggest concerns once police locates to the Kensington Business Center and fire to the former MB Bank on Rand Road?
I think the main concerns I remember from hearing from Coffee with Council sessions, committee with the whole, and other board meetings and other ways community members had engagement with this process was about the traffic on Kensington Road. I looked a little bit into the traffic study myself. Need more time for myself to understand that. I see that the traffic there is the top priority that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, it's great that the two bodies are moving for proper spacing.
Thank you. Richard?
No, I know we're talking about Bussey Road expansion, is that correct?
No, let me reread the question, I'm sorry. It is, with police and fire relocating to new facilities, what are your biggest concerns once police locates to the Kensington Business Center and fire to the former MB Bank on Rand Road?
Okay. We moved the fire station out of the downtown section to alleviate some of the traffic here, but the problem was the north side of Mount Prospect was being served in about 6 minutes, whereas the downtown area was served in 1 to 2 minutes. By moving the fire station to where it is now, or the new location, we will be able to serve both locations under the 4 minutes. 4 minutes is a magic number for the fire department in order to do life safety and to put out fires, obviously. But life safety is the biggest item that we work with. The police station almost doesn't matter where it is because the police all operate within our communities. The police are always in the various communities. We have districts that the police officers provide their protection in, and so they're always out in the community anyhow. The only time they're in the station is when they're changing cars.
Thank you, Richard. Colleen?
I think the fact that the police department is moving to Kensington is a great thing for our community. I keep saying, I call it spreading the floor. It's spreading the municipal representation in buildings throughout town to make people feel more connected to town and to village services. It's going to give the force a 21st century facility, which they desperately need. It's safer for our staff and for the victims coming into town. And if people have questions on that, you should really look at the space needs study that's on our village website. It lays out the case completely. Moving the fire building is also beneficial to the community for decreasing call times and giving them more access to 83 and to Rand. Overall, one thing I've been pushing for is for increased information flow and for the project portals on the village website to be updated. There's going to be webcams so you can watch the buildings being built, and so I think it's going to be a great process for our village.
Thank you, Colleen. Yulia?
The police department built a case for why they needed a new location. They had the space needs study, and I was very encouraged to see that they were able to pursue an adaptive reuse approach instead of building a new headquarters. However, my main concern with the relocation of both the fire and police is the amount of debt that we've taken on. It will be $61 million between principal and interest by the time we're done paying for this project. And with that in mind, I think our public needed to be better educated and better informed with regards to the obligation they were taking on of $61 million.
Thank you. Augie?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I just want to make
Of
sure that I'm
course.
answering it.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
With police and fire relocating to new facilities, what are your biggest concerns once police locates to the Kensington Business Center and fire to the former MB Bank on Rand Road?
My biggest concern is that we do something productive with the land that it's on. I mean, that kind of dovetails with my prior response on the TIF, and it's TIFs work if you let them. And being able to have a positive development over there, bringing in a private developer, incentivizing them to bring in millions and millions of dollars here. Because again, if the TIF works and you actually build on that, that's also going to mean lower property taxes for people. You're not going to be asking as much from the people's pocket if you have land that's increased in value and you have commercial density, you have new businesses, you have additional growth. It's also going to provide for more infrastructure spending to positively improve those areas and the lives of the people all around as well. So my big thing is, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly. And the new police station and the fire station, you know, in terms of the money that was expended, I think that was because we kind of didn't do it the right way when we first started. And so that's why it only lasted 25. And so it's very fortunate that the police and the fire are doing it the right way now, which is going to save us a lot of money in the future. Thank you.
Paul?
There was no question that the police department needed major improvements. They were not functioning well in the current space. The fire department was functioning just fine in the current building and could have stayed there. That would have saved us $15 million. The other thing is, if you've seen my record, I've always asked to go to referendum in virtually every large capital expenditure. Take it to the people, inform the people, and then ask them, do they want to go from $50 million in debt to $100 million in debt, And don't make any, this is like when you put a mortgage on your home or that's got to be paid back. So what we did was, and I'm not, this is the way that it was put together, and it was done appropriately, but we stretched the debt out over a long period of time. So I always say, well, I can put you in a Chevy or I can put you in a Lincoln. I can put you in a Lincoln, but the debt's going to be over 10 years. The Chevy's going to be over 3 years. That's exactly what we did. So I'm very concerned that we're not asking the people, we're not informing the people, not we're including the people. But in the end, we're going to have 2 brand new, highly functioning facilities that will serve us into the future.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, our last question for Richard is, the village is in the midst of figuring out how to allow better flow of traffic at Kensington, 83 and Rand. From what you have experienced and heard from community members, what could be, in your opinion, the best viable solution, and what would you advocate for?
Well, we are working on traffic studies on several intersections. The one at Randhurst is a big one. The one right here at Central and Rand Road is another one. And of course, crossing the railroad tracks is a big item. We are working on all of those intersections to try to improve them. On the railroad tracks, we are working at working lights so that when traffic is stuck by the train, the other traffic can continue on to flow. That'll lessen the traffic so that when the trains disappear, it will help the flow of the other traffic. On Central and Rand, the roadway has been widened so that people can make the turn. The lights have been changed slightly. There's a lot less congestion at that intersection.
Thank you, Richard.
Could you state the question again?
I'd be happy to. The village is in the midst of figuring out how to allow better flow of traffic at Kensington, 83 and Rand. From what you have experienced and heard from community members, what could be, in your opinion, the best viable solution, and what would you advocate for? Helen?
Oh, we've studied this a bunch, and I believe it's in phase 1 engineering right now. I know that we did surveys of people. It seemed that it didn't bother them that much, but being a resident of that area, it bothers me. So I'm glad that we're looking at it because it could function a lot better. So I'm looking towards what staff is going to present to us and the options that they see. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know that my suggestion would be valid, but I am glad to see also that we've made adjustments to the crossings in that area to make it more pedestrian friendly, so at least pedestrian wise, people are able to move more freely in that area.
Thank you, Colleen. Yulia?
Likewise, I am not a traffic expert, so I am going to sound like Augie when I say this, but I think we need to leave it in the hands of professionals and allow the studies to go on. I do have a concern that was recently brought up by a resident who mentioned the fact that we're moving the fire station up in that area, and how that intersection, the dreaded intersection, will be affected by the first responders having to utilize that intersection to respond to calls. So if anything, I would want to be thoughtful as to what results we use. I would want to use the post-fire department relocation results, so we have that effect all figured into our solutions.
Thank you. Augie?
Yeah, I think the fire department may have already looked at that before they decided to relocate over there, as well as working with local government funding and the agencies in order to address that. But the answer, nothing. It is what it is. We've already done a significant amount of studies. We've already spent a significant amount of money on that intersection. The last one, which was from Tesca Associates, I think was the last committee meeting that would happen on that, was cut off Kensington completely and just make it a dead end. So that's not going to happen. And then the other thing, you also have additional bodies. It's not just Mount Prospect. So Mount Prospect can't go over there and just change the line sequence or anything like that. I mean, they need to work with IDOT. These are U.S. roads and things like that, so you're going to have other issues too. The coolest one I kind of saw was make it a turnabout, which presents its own kind of issues. So I think the money that, instead of focusing it over there, which is my neighborhood, so I'm going across that signal a lot. You know, we deal with it and we see it as a part of life, and we've put that money towards something else that can be put to greater effect, like downtown plans.
Thank you, Augie. Paul?
So that is one of the busiest intersections in northern Illinois. And we've all been going north on 83, and the light turned, it's green, and then it turns red. And you know, well, I can add 8 minutes to my travel. It's very unfortunate. All that I think we can do at this point is better timing, more computerized controls, updated controls. But I would agree with everybody here. That's not up to me. The best and brightest traffic engineering minds have worked on that intersection, and they'll continue to work on that intersection. But a number of years ago, we looked at some cutoff roads that would have taken people right into Randhurst. So where Chick-fil-A is, we could have had a cutoff road there, and where Just Tires is, we could have had a cutoff road there. Would have relieved some tension. Not into the neighborhoods, but into Randhurst or out of Randhurst. Unfortunately, the cost of the land was just too prohibitive, so we never moved forward on that. But at this point, engineering is the way to go, and it's the only solution.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And Jeff, the final answer.
So this topic is one issue I think that can get everyone involved in the community, get everyone's opinion in on. And of course, hearing from the community members on the average driver is important as well to the process with the IDOT professionals and engineers. Going along with the professionals, we can't just say, all right, that's great and all that. We need to be more informative with the public and explain why it is that way. And we can't just give it to them through the transparency site. We need to be a little bit more active with face-to-face contact of why this is the way it is. And that way, there will be a bit of a better understanding and less honking at the intersection.
Thank you, Jeff. I thank all of you for your thoughtful answers. They're much appreciated, and I think the audience learned quite a bit. So we're going to go through our concluding remarks now, and we're going to begin with Colleen, right to left, 1 minute apiece.
Thank you for attending tonight, and to the Journal for hosting. I have 4 years of experience on the board, as well as background in government administration. I understand the functions of government and its importance to our community. I believe I am an asset to the board because I come prepared for meetings, ask pertinent questions, and listen to all sides of an issue. I bring a positive perspective to the board. I make decisions based upon what is best for the entire Mount Prospect community. I carefully consider resident comments, staff recommendations, and expert reports. Even though I may have a personal feeling about an issue, I vote based upon what I believe is best for the community. I act with the best intentions and care for the future of Mount Prospect. I want Mount Prospect to be a welcoming place for residents and businesses for years to come. I am dedicated to our community and committed to our future.
Thank you, Colleen. Richard.
As I said earlier, I'm a registered architect and registered professional engineer. I bring a lot of experience to the board, particularly on issues of the downtown redevelopment, buildings throughout the building. I was instrumental in both the police and fire station remodeling and redoing of those existing buildings. My experience goes even further than that because I have the business experience. I had my own business for 37 years. At one point, I was a trustee on the Board of Trustees for the Illinois Masonic Medical Center. So I've got a lot of business experience as well as Mount Prospect experience. And I'd like to use that to continue on. So I'm asking for your vote on April the 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Jeff.
I thought today was a great day. We had great weather. We had a great forum hosted by Journal and Topics, and get to see all of my neighbors out here tonight for this important forum, listening to all these candidates tonight. talk about all these issues that are always on your front of your mind, sometimes on the back of your mind. The current board, they have taken the initiative, they've taken steps to go further to serve you. They have provided the examples of working hard, taking those hours to be diligent and serve you. And that is something I also want to take that opportunity to help others. It's a story that I'm continuing on of helping my neighbors, and I hope to have your vote to write me in on April 2nd, Nadel, Nejdl. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Paul?
It's been a true honor to serve the people of Mount Prospect as their trustee for the past 28 years. I'm a strong, consistent, and dedicated public servant with deep experience and a strong love for our community. I put a good deal of my lifetime in this town, and I love it here. When you cast your vote for Paul Hofert, you know that you'll be electing a trustee that values what you have to say and will be your voice in our village government. And we'll work to keep the lid on taxes, spending, and we'll work to keep Mount Prospect a vital community with strong property values and a place where people want to live, work, and raise their families. Always remember that Paul Hofert is a nonpartisan, independent candidate who answers to no one except you, the citizens of Mount Prospect. I have only our best interests in mind, and I am your advocate. Over the years, I've shown that I'm a steady and experienced hand to help lead our village forward and protect our interests. I ask for your vote on Tuesday, April 2nd. Vote Paul Hofert, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Augie?
Hi. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thanks for your questions, and thanks for the conversation. As we leave, I'm going to double down on a promise I made the other week, and that's that I promise to always be genuine. That doesn't mean that you're always going to agree with me. That doesn't mean I'm always going to agree with you. But every vote that I've made since I started on planning and zoning, every vote that I would make as a trustee would be after careful review of all village reports, after investigation, after discussion with residents, and after properly vetting the facts to get to a conclusion. I will not substitute short-term personal gain for long-term community gain. I'm not going to play politics. I'm not going to put the interests of the few above the interests of the many. And I'm not going to kiss up and kick down. That's not who I am. Those weren't the values my parents taught me. Those weren't the values that I've learned from the people of Mount Prospect. Those weren't the values that my wife would put up with. So I appreciate it, and I look forward to continuing working for the people of Mount Prospect. Thank you.
Thank you, Augie. Julia?
And thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I am so excited and so encouraged by the amount of citizen engagement I'm observing in this election cycle. Back in 2017, we had 3 open seats and only 2 people on the ballot. Now in 2019, we have 3 open seats and 6 people are running. The Daily Herald is having a hard time picking their candidates to endorse because they have such great choices. I think this is something we need to celebrate, this is the energy we need to harness. I am not looking to become a lifetime trustee. I hope to serve this community for as long as my ideas are relevant and useful. And what I really want to do is continue to encourage folks in this community to be engaged, to maybe run for office one day too. So while I hope to earn your vote on April 2nd, I hope you too will one day consider a run for elected office. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So at the risk of maybe mispronouncing some names, Julia Bekic, Augie Filippone, Paul Hofert, Jeff Nadel, Richard Rogers, Colleen Secatelli. Did I get that right? Close enough? All right, audience, let's first of all down for the thoughtful answers. As was mentioned, the election will be held on April 2nd. We have 6 people running for 3 4-year seats on the Village of Mount Prospect Board of Trustees. And not only do we want to thank the candidates, but we want to thank you guys, members of the audience. Thank all of you for being there. Central Continental, I guess they got to go next for those nice sweet rolls they have out there. Help yourself on the way out. Volunteer Timekeeper, MPTV, the Village of Mount Prospect, and of course our sponsor, the Journal and Topics, Richard, Caroline, and Lauren. So thank you. It is, we're right on time, 8:53. So thank you again. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.